Hi, my name is Paul Nager. I'm a local therapist, and I want to talk about why love stinks and how it is that the honeymoon can fade or does fade in romantic relationships. And if you really want to know why people fall out of love, why there's this imbalance between one person has a lot more passion than the other person has, why people fall out of love, then you have to understand the basic premise of relationship. And that is that your inner pain, your unresolved grief and drama that can remain hidden in you until you get into a relationship, and then it comes out. And some people will never be able to face and look at their hidden, it'll remain hidden, and they will give up on relationships, and it's really, they've given up on themselves. And they might have a cat because everyone needs to give love, to take care of something besides themselves, right? As humans, we need to receive love and we need to give love. So they'll have a very lucky cat and they'll have given up on relationships. So it's only in the bright light of in the mirror of relationship that you see your stuff and it comes out. And this is how it happens. So in the beginning of the relationship, there's a tremendous inflation. It's just like, you bring meaning to my life. You're my inspiration. You know, it's very beautiful. And so there's a lot of passion. Well, let me back up and say this is called the twin flame of love. Twin flames. I developed this from Esther Perel. I don't know where she got it from, but in romantic relationships, there's two sides. One is the love side, the other is the passion side. Okay, so the passion flame is the juice of life. This is the wanting. This is the eros. This is the, the deep meaning and beauty. This is the wanting. It's very beautiful, the passion in a relationship. But the issue is this flame is fickle. It comes and it goes. In the beginning, in the honeymoon, it's very strong. And if they're at the end of the relationship, it's very strong too, especially for the person who was rejected. It's terribly strong when you're rejected. But in between time, we want to look at how to bring in long-term relationships, how to keep alive or bring back some of this fickle flame. The love side is very steady. And what fuels the love side of a relationship is belonging, togetherness, predictability, safety. You need your partner to be safe, to be predictable, reliable, right? That's wonderful. That's very important in human relationships. But it can kill if a person is so safe and predictable, right? If there's no uncertainty, if there's no adventure, if there's no space, if there's too much togetherness. There's a country western song that says, how can I miss you when you won't leave? Oftentimes relationships need some space to breathe some air back into this fickle flame. So, and we've all experienced this in romantic relationships where it seems like one person is more vulnerable. They're risking more somehow. It's harder for them to be in the relationship. That is the person who will start to have more passion. That is a person whose passion flame will burn more, and there'll start to be an imbalance, particularly if you're bringing a lot of unhealed wounds, a lot of trauma, relational trauma and pain from your past. Then you're definitely going to have a lot of risk and a lot of vulnerability and a lot of passion in the relationship. And as the honeymoon starts to fade, as the inflation, as you start, as the bright, light of inflation, in America, where we kind of worship the inflations, we don't know how to value the deflation. We love summer and hate winter. Winter is the quiet inner time. So with every inflation, or romantic inflation, there's going to be a deflation. And so when that happens, we say we've fallen out of love. But really what's happening is the person with a lot of vulnerability and a lot of woundedness they're trying to get healed through this relationship is being overbearing. It's a lot to take. There's demand. When you have this much passion for someone, You're feeling so insecure, right? And so you start demanding, from the other person. And we know that demands kills the spontaneity, kills feelings of warm, positive feelings. Demanding does. So often when people fall in love, they say, you watered a dry place in me where I didn't even know I was thirsty. Because of your love, you met needs of mine that I didn't even know I had. When that happens to you or to your partner, you're in trouble. And I hope by this little talk that you can understand the nature of your predicament. Okay, so here. Let me explain it this way in the extreme. So, for example, a young woman who was raised by an alcoholic father, was very wounded from her childhood because her father wasn't present because he was sick with alcoholism. So now she's a young woman looking for love, adventure, romance, and she consciously says, "No way, I'm never going to date a drinker." But unconsciously, she's looking for a drinker. And she will find someone who can re-wound her in the same way her father wounded her. And it's easier to see in her case. So she'll fall madly in love with a young man, and they'll have this passionate honeymoon. And then as the honeymoon starts to fade, as the reality of the people starts to show up, come to find out, surprise, surprise, he's a drinker. He's been hiding it from her. So no one but her is surprised, that this young man was a drinker. He's got his own problems. But we can see sort of the child's unmet need for love crying out, to this young man, to demanding that he love her. So she's trying to get her relationship healed, her wounds from the past in the current day relationship. And it's a disaster because this poor young man has got his own woundedness, his own drama and problems, and he can't supply that love for her. And in fact, it's not his job. She's trying to prove to him that she's worthy of love. And that never was the problem. She was a beloved little girl. Her worth about love. So she's trying to solve a problem. She doesn't even know what the problem is. The problem is that the wounds that need to be healed. Now, whether or not she can do that in the context of within the relationship, is another matter. But we all have this compulsion to recreate childhood wounds in current day relationships. And we bring a lot of vulnerability, and we have to risk, and we have to be honest. And the problems that come up in the couple is the opportunity to heal, to have access. So in the beginning of a relationship, your lover can catalyze your growth. They can spark new growth, new life in you. So beautiful, right? But then once you're going steady, once you're engaged in a long-term relationship, then you believe that this beloved person who catalyzed your growth and brought new life to you, you believe that that's going to continue with this person. They're not. No human being could supply that for you. You have to find that within yourself. Okay? So whether or not the relationship will survive that, usually it doesn't. Because people who are really wounded, who come into relationships, need to heal. And they need to look at themselves. And usually they start looking the most at themselves when they're rejected. And then are we filled with obsession and passion for the person that rejected us. It's like an addiction. It's an addictive energy. So this is a lot of information, a lot of stories to cover in under 10 minutes. But I want to back up and say that the reason people fall out of love is because demands creep in, because there are a lot to take. They're trying to get their deep wounds healed through the other person, which is impossible. Now, trying to get your deep wounds healed in the context of a relationship with your partner may be possible, but not if you demand that they love you again. They probably do love you. You belong to them. You're seen. There's companionship. There's warmth, right? But it's the passion side that's problematic, okay? And also in long-term relationships, when the passion flame, it's fickle. It's going to fade. It's going to come back. It's going to go away. So how to get it back? So for example, novelty. So you need to do projects together. You and your partner can do a project that stretches you both past your comfort zone, like a salsa class or a shared project you can do together that's hard, that you don't know what you're doing, right? It can't be too far past your comfort zone or your partner's comfort zone. But novelty, adventure, still risking, like, hey, I'm still working on myself, honey. And what I don't understand about in this situation, like, I'm going to show up and risk something, even though we're married and been married for 10 years, right? I'm still alive. I still need the juice in our relationship to come back. So this is a paradox. How is it that we can get our needs met for togetherness, safety, and vulnerability, adventure from the same person? This is the dilemma of the modern relationship. And if you understand the challenge, if you understand the dilemma, then you have a chance of healing it, overcoming it. So I hope